Unashamed, the recovery podcast.
Hey, Recovery fam. Welcome to another episode of the Unashamed Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Drew.
I'm Drew.
I'm your host, Josh. That's Drew.
Josh is confused. Let's just meet today's guest.
Hey, Recovery fam. Our guest today is Haley from Columbus, Mississippi, just down the road from here in Meridian. And we're excited to have her join us to be sharing her story. Haley, I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself to the listeners, kind of tell them a little bit about yourself before we get into your story today.
Okay, my name is Haley Pridmore. I'm 38. I'm from Columbus, Mississippi. I have 3 girls, all 5 years apart. 2 of which live with me. 1 lives with her dad due to my addiction. I work for community counseling. I have my bachelor's in family studies.
Awesome.
And I actually am the lead in peer support. I work out of Columbus, Mississippi and West Point, Mississippi, and I use what I've been through in my addiction to give back to the community. I work with kids who are birth to 21 years old, and I use my story to help give light to not only the kids, but the parents as well.
That's amazing.
Just to give them hope that there is help, and not just in addiction, but mental health and everything else.
That's amazing.
That's a big thing that's not really talked about, as much as, mental health sometimes can go unrecognized, so
Absolutely.
to speak. So that's a big thing.
Yep. So before we get into your story, Haley, what is your addiction? What did you struggle with? For me, I struggled with porn and sex addiction. Drew, his was a number of things. Drew, can you even keep count of all your stuff?
1,000?
So we all were struggling with different stuff. What was your struggle, Haley?
Well, let's see. It started off at 12 years old with cigarettes, and then moved to alcohol, and then moved to marijuana, and then moved to ecstasy, then moved to cocaine, then moved to crack, then moved to methamphetamines. And when it went to methamphetamines, that's where the rock bottom came.
It's always amazing of all these stories that we sit down and listen to. It's always this visible progression. Well, hey, it starts here, and then they went to this, and then it went to this, and then it went to this. And so it's always this progression. It never just stays in one form. And so I think that's always interesting. We've been able just to see so many stories like that.
Where it takes that little bit of effect and then becomes a big snowball effect after that. Yeah. So it's just, you can watch it. And what they say is addiction is progressive either way it goes.
Absolutely.
Even if you stop for a little bit and you come back to it, you don't actually start all the way over. You start where you stopped at, and then it just progresses. That's why there's such a high number of people who end up overdosing due to the fact that they get to a point, they decide to quit, and they try to go back, they relapse, and it's 10 times worse than where it started from. So I imagine that even mentally, there's a snowball effect on how much they want to use because they're trying to get that effect back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
go back to that dragon.
Oh yeah.
So Haley, as we start moving into your story, your testimony, it's kind of like a novel, and all great stories and great books, they have a beginning. What does the beginning of Haley's book look like? What is chapter 1 for you?
Well, mine really started when I was 12. My dad passed away. And, that really took a turn in my life. I had never witnessed death before. I really wasn't prepared for it. I knew that he was real sick. But at 12, I had never witnessed anyone dying. I wasn't mentally and physically prepared for it. So when it happened, it kind of took me as a shock. I became mad at all my family members. I became mad at God. I rebelled in the streets, but I excelled at school. And
Yeah, that sounds a ton. I'm down to interrupt. That sounds a ton like my story.
yes, I mean,
Did you listen to my story?
I
Is
did
that
not.
what that is?
No, did not at all.
She took notes. She took notes. Had to take notes.
Did not at all. But that, I mean, it was crazy because that's how I fooled my mom, you know?
Right.
Like my report cards was A's, 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 you know? And my grandma was like, Haley's doing so well. Haley's doing so well, you know? But that was my mask.
Yeah, you could put your focus in on schoolwork.
Absolutely.
And it kind of gave you the let's say the hide and go seek type of deal, so you could actually hide within that work. But you know, all the same, you're wearing the mask, living the double life too. You know, so I think that's so many people's story in addiction. You know, that's and it's tragic because sometimes people never get to take the mask off. You know, but
And I got comfortable with that mask.
right.
For a long time, you know, but my mom, she worked, she went to school to do hair, she, you know, had a lot going on.
Right.
You know, so, and I was an only child, you know, so of course, with my dad gone and my mom working a lot, I really had a silver spoon, you know, and I was enabled a lot. And I used that to my advantage.
Right.
And that, it really sucked at sometimes, but in some points I enjoyed it. You know, looking back on it, you know, I kind of wish it wasn't that way, but it made me who I am today.
Yeah.
And I remember I got away with it for so long, and you know, as the grades progressed, you know, it got a little bit worse, and a little bit worse, and a little bit worse. And I'll never forget one year, I was just, they can't catch me. You know, like, I am invisible. I can do whatever I want, you know, and so I skipped school one day and got away with it.
Oh Lord.
Skipped school the second day. Got away with it. So I was like, my friends were like, let's do it again. And I was like, okay, we done got away with it 2 days in a row. And I mean, I rode the bus to school, went in the school and walked right out the back. And y'all, that third day, that school called my mama. And was like, I don't know, Miss Dunham or Miss Bridmore, I don't even remember if she was married at the time. Your daughter is not at school. She was like, yes, she is. She just done caught the bus. And she goes, she hasn't been here the last 3 days. And she goes, I know exactly where she is.
Oh Lord.
And y'all, she drove up there to where I was at. And I remember my friend said, Haley, your mom is here. No, she's not. And I went and hid, and y'all, my mama like pulled her car up to the back and like hopped on her trunk and dove in the window and came in the house and got me out. And the whole way to juvenile detention center, she was just popping me. Just popping me. You're not gonna do this anymore. And like, she took me in, and that was the start of my mask starting to fall. You know, I couldn't get away with it. And they didn't take me. They were like, you can't walk her in. And I was like, take me in. Put me back there.
So if your mom was anything like mine was a belt-wielding warrior. Like
Yes.
literally, I think she laughed a couple times. Like, what are those war cries?
Yeah.
You
Mine
know?
was a split, but yes. I was like, please take me in. Do not put me back in the car with her. And they're like, you're going.
I remember there was one time I called. My mom she had caught me smoking cigarettes, and so she was about to give me this terrible whooping. I said, "You hit me with that belt, I'm calling Child Protective Services." And so I told her that. She said, "If you can reach that phone, you go right ahead, mister." I was like, you ever seen the movie Pootie Tang? They get the belt. I'm talking about every time. So.
I'll give you something to call them about. Here you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Belts for days.
I think our show has went to an all-time low. We have now referenced Pootie Tang and Unashamed Recovery.
That'd be my fault. I'll take that.
So you're begging juvenile to take you in to keep you from your mom. So did you actually stay at juvenile, or did you go back home?
No, I had to go back home, you know, but she did call, and they came and got me. And I remember going in there, oh my gosh, it was so scary. Like, I finally heard that the cells clinking behind me, and The girl was in there. I remember one girl had a hickey on her face, and one girl was talking about stealing my food, and I mean, it was horrible. And I was like, this is not for me. Yeah, and I called my mom and was like, Mom, please come get me. I promise I'm not going to do this some more. And she said she opened the Bible, you know, and she just started reading, and it was talking about forgiveness. So she did come and get me. And I stopped hanging around those people. She was like, you know, you're not going to hang out with them. We're going to do things a little different. And things got a little better. And then got back into a different crowd. You know, if you don't change your circle, you can find the same different type of people. So I did, got back in trouble again.
Nothing changes, nothing changes.
Absolutely. So I did leave. I left and I went up north. That's what I was telling you about. And I went to live with my aunt in Kentucky. And I finished school there. Again, you can change geographical regions, but you can find the same type of people.
It's the thinking that has to change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And my thinking never changed.
You know, it was somebody, it might have been at Sober Recovery, I was talking to a guy, and I was telling him, if you don't change the people you're around, like you are the average of the 5 people you hang around.
Yeah.
Like if those 5 people are in Sober Recovery, then hey, you're the average of those 5 people.
Absolutely.
If those 5 people are over at the show bar 5 nights a week, you're the average of that. You are the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. And I mean, and that's the truth. I mean, your circle of influence is just that. It's a circle of
That's
influence.
right.
When Amy gave that, you know, when she did her talk, that was, it was so informative. But that was one of the points she hit on, you know, you're only as intelligible or, you know, generic or original as those 5 people. It's just, you know, it was just one of those things that really, really stuck. I'm sorry, I had to give her a knock on it. Yeah, on that one, because, you know, she did kind of knock some rust loose there, because you hear that often, that you are the company you keep. You know what I mean? But people don't really put that into a retrospect or a really good thought process.
Not at
So,
all.
yeah, you are the company you end up keeping.
Most definitely. So you're in Kentucky. Your circle of influence hasn't changed. So I would imagine you're still doing the same stuff in Kentucky that you were doing in Columbus, Mississippi.
Absolutely. But this time I'm with my aunt, who again, look at Haley. You know, she's doing so well, you know, and once again, I could start back I'm doing my grades. I'm doing
The mask is back on.
The mask is back on. I'm doing so well, you know. I'm going to do this. Aunt Janet, I love you. You know, please, and, you know, she never had kids, you know. And my dad that passed away was her brother. You know, so I played that as much as I could. You know, and was it wrong? Absolutely. You know, and today we have an amazing relationship. And we did back then, but I used it to my advantage.
Yeah.
To the extreme. And, you know, I caused a lot of conflict between her and her husband in her marriage. And at that time, I never saw it. But today, I see it, you know, but...
And even if you probably saw it back then, you know, if you're in the middle of it, you really don't care.
I didn't care.
So, I mean, that's that kind of dark side of addiction that we really don't talk about is you just don't care. As long as you're getting what you're getting, you don't care.
Absolutely.
And that's our best choice is always, in addiction, it's always manipulation. You know, and that's just something, over time, you know, I've come to realize, and you can even see, like, people who have an early addiction that won't realize they're in addiction, their choices that they're making are so, and I hate to say self-centered, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And so it becomes manipulative to what they need or what they want. You know, they know how to play it just how they need to
Absolutely.
in order to circumvent everything around them. So,
And to me, it really didn't feel like an addiction because it was just smoking weed and just drinking.
right.
You know, and you say just smoking weed and just drinking, but that is an addiction.
Yeah.
You know, but back then I was like, well, I hadn't switched over to the cocaine and the ecstasy and the pills and the meth.
Well, people think the harder the drug is, that makes what makes it an addiction.
Right.
You know, sometimes Josh's, you know, scenario, there's no drugs involved at all.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Here I am. just doing what normal kids do, looking at a Playboy, or got my friend's stolen porno VHS that he got off of his dad. That's what boys do. You're made to think, hey, there's no, you don't see it being, so yeah.
Exactly.
Most definitely. And so where does that progress to from there? You're doing the weed and you're drinking a little bit. There's got to be a progression.
So I came home one night, well, I was out, and my aunt told me, she was like, okay, Haley, me and John are tired of it. If you do not come home by X amount of time, I think it was like 11 o'clock, we're going to change the locks and you're not going to come in. And I was like, I call BS. Y'all aren't going to do that to me.
I'm going to push the tester button.
Oh, buddy, did I. Let's say it was 11 o'clock.
Right.
And I drove up at like 11:20. And I put my key in the door, and it did not work. I am not kidding you. And I was knocking, and I could see her at the top of the stairs. And I'm like knocking, and she's like, I told you. I told you. And I'm like, let me in. She did not let me in. And so that was like...
Kudos to her.
Yeah. I was like, okay. So I went and got an apartment. And that's where it started. That's where the cocaine came in. That's where, the ecstasy started. That's where it all began. I got into a real bad cocaine addiction. I did graduate high school. I went into, like I said, excelled in school. I went to my first year of college. I got my associates in business management. I finished those, but high as a bird,
Right.
But it wasn't what I needed to do. I was never happy. I'd fall asleep thinking about where my drugs were coming the next day. And I'd spend my days just high. And through that cocaine addiction, it was hard. I was never satisfied.
So were you doing the cocaine with the ecstasy? Was it at the same time, or have we yet to get to the ecstasy?
I was doing anything. If I could get my hands on it, I was doing it. Like I was telling him, the only thing I didn't do was heroin.
People used to ask me my drug of choice, whenever I first started this whole recovery, my journey. And I would be like, any? What do you mean? Who has
I'll try it.
One specific?
Yeah.
You mean you were just stuck on one? Any?
Like I can see God's fingerprints all over me.
Yeah.
Like through it all, because the uppers and downers I did all throughout the nights, I do not understand how I'm still here today. He's got a purpose for me. But I remember coming home one night, I was with my first child's dad, and I told him, I was like, I don't want to do the cocaine no more. Let's be done. And I came home, and I went to a restaurant with my mom and dad, and there was this bar, not a bar, CJ's Pizza or something like that. And there was a band playing, and I wanted to go see the band. And I went to the band with this friend from church, this old friend from church. And I drank a beer with him, and then he asked what kind of shot I wanted, and I was like, Goldschlager. And so that was the drink that I used to drink at the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's old school.
Definitely young.
Yeah. So I took the shot, and the next thing I remember was waking up to an alarm clock going off the next morning. And I was like, where am I at? Like, I didn't know where I was at. And so I went back home, and I went to the hospital the next day, and I'd been administered the day rape drug. And so a couple of weeks go by, and I found out I was pregnant. And that really hit me hard, because that's not how I wanted to have a pregnancy. So I did a lot of soul searching on it, and I wound up having an abortion. And when I say that killed my soul, like it changed me. When I say became a dark person, because I could not live with who I was. And I was tired of being myself. I went back to Mike, who Maya's dad is. We fought constantly. I didn't want to live anymore. We wound up breaking up for a little bit, and I went and did my own thing, so we went our separate ways. And then we wound up getting back together about a couple of years later, and we wound up getting pregnant with Maya. And everything was fine for a little while. We didn't have a place to call our own. We lived at this one place, there was a drive-by shooting. He never stopped doing the drugs, and obviously I did because I was pregnant. And it sucked to watch him come in, you know, drunk or rolling, and, you know, I'd be like, can you not stop? Like, just for 9 months. Like, you stop while I'm, you know, I want to be where you are, but I can't, because like, I got this baby growing inside me. And it really sucks watching him. And, like, the drive-by shooting happened, so he moved me into a motel. That was great, watching a baby grow inside of you while you're in a motel.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, Lord.
So I was like, okay. Yeah, I was like, so I felt a kick for the first time inside of a motel where the, what is this called? Air conditioner. I had to visualize it. Air conditioner frozen up. I was like, the air conditioner was frozen up. So I took my socks off and like had to put it on the unit so it would quit freezing up. And I called my mom. I was like, Mama, this is not what I want. Like, can I please come home? Right. She was like, absolutely. So I lined up a job and I came home and I've been home ever since. Got a job. Mike came up coming down, and she was born. Y'all, she was 10.5 pounds.
Ooh, Lord.
Yes. 32 hours of labor.
Oh.
Yes.
So not C-section. So.
Oh yes. An emergency C-section after 32 hours.
Whew.
And.
So that's why you had the warrior tattoo.
Yes. Well, the warrior tattoos come after.
The warrior prints.
Yeah, I'm telling you. The warrior's after everything I've been through.
No doubt.
Yeah, they held her up, and I went, that's not my baby. She was so big.
Right.
So she did not look like a newborn.
10 pounds.
10.5.
She's ready to play college football.
I was about to say, she came out walking, didn't she?
It was like, she is huge. I was like, thank you for my C-section, but
I mean, did she slap the doctor back?
I'm telling you, right? But you know, that's where it really, really took place.
Right.
That's where it went full force from there. Because of the C-section, they gave me these 2 little bottles, pain pills. One for the C-section and one for, you know, postpartum. And my name was on that bottle.
So I want to stop for just a second right there, because when we did Shauna's episode, Shauna was your typical soccer mom driving a Land Rover, and hers started from a wreck.
Yep.
And hers was prescriptions. That was what she dealt with. And when hers went on for a while and wound up getting the DEA called her, and she was forging prescriptions.
Yep.
It's like 8 years, wasn't it?
I can't even remember now, but I did some research when we were doing her episode, and I came across that 80% of opiate addictions start from a legit prescription.
Yep.
80% of opiate addictions. So it's not an uncommon thing. More people than you realize are battling a opiate addiction because, hey, my name's on the bottle.
Absolutely.
And the body becomes so dependent on that numbing feeling. Mm-hmm. And then if you're dealing with some emotional stuff on top of that,
absolutely,
that knocks both of them out.
So for people to sit there and say, I'll never be in addiction, it's more common for you than you think, because like with Sean, hers was a car wreck. Mm-hmm. Yours was a childbirth.
Yep.
Very easily, anybody can get sucked into this world.
Absolutely.
This isn't what the stigma makes it out to be. This affects anybody, any race, any age, any social class, any salary, any job.
Yes.
I mean, it affects us all.
And they don't even have to know they're in an addiction. All they have to do is go fill that prescription and not even understand it. And then they go back the next month and say, yeah, that felt great. Can I get another refill?
Oh, I'm still hurting a
Yeah,
little bit.
absolutely.
Just a
If
touch.
you go back and get that
Yeah.
refill and you take that whole bottle, boom, you're in the next week and you don't even realize it.
And that's the thing that, ended up getting so many of my friends was the fact that they would manipulate themselves in their way of thinking, because they would say, oh man, it's just, I got this little pain in my knee, I had these vitamins, or I had this, and I had that, and so this will numb it for a little while, and those little things you tell yourself, those little bitty lies you tell yourself, is when you should really wake up and see, hey, well, if I'm becoming so dependent on this to quit the pain, then it's just becoming an addiction. But, we never ask ourselves that question in the middle of it. It's only when it goes too far.
Absolutely.
So, and I hate that it happens like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we interrupted. But I wanted to take that one because it was a good point about, hey, I don't know, it's just, I always try to make that point when I can. So anyway, back to your part where you've got these 2 bottles, postpartum for C-section.
Yep. So, I got these 2 bottles, taking them. I go back home with her, and Mike winds up leaving about 5 months. No, he stayed for about 5-6 months after she was born. And, she was very colic. I'm talking about, if he was not holding her, she was crying. She cried from the moment she woke up till the moment she went back to sleep. And, I went right back to work. I didn't have, what's it called? Maternity leave.
Yeah.
So I went right back to work, shuffling my feet at work, because I was ready to get back to work. I was ready to get right out of the crying, I'm a new mom. What is this crying? Like, I can't go back to work. And, he was like, I just can't deal with all this crying. It's hard, when you're a new parent and a baby is crying 24/7, like.
And being a new parent, you don't know how to soothe it.
No,
it's
at
just
all.
like, you know what? Nope.
And you're coming out of all this, addiction lifestyle where you're yourself and you're caught up in doing you. And then
having
you
to
have
feel things.
Yes, you have
actually.
this little bitty body.
Being a new parent is hard on its own.
Yeah.
Because you don't know jack about anything.
Right.
And you're kind of following, like, you don't know how to do this, and then the baby kind of takes the next step, and now once you finally get a hold of that, it takes another step. So you're playing catch up with that, and then you're also coming out of addiction.
So you're trying to play catch up with natural life as well.
It's hard. It was hard. It was hard. So I went and got, we were living with my mom for a while. We went and got a place, a little trailer, and when he left, it was really hard. Not only was I thrown into the single mom now, it's like, what do I do? It's like by myself.
Yeah.
And here I am stuck with a baby. He's going to let me down. So then I started going out to, I was going back to school because I wanted to go back and get either elementary education. I wanted to work with kids now. I didn't want to just sit at a desk and, type papers. I wanted to work with kids. Now that I had a kid of my own, I wanted to work with kids. Where that came from, I don't know. But I did. And now I'm glad because, I've got something I can bounce back to. But I was going to school and I was working. And then, so I would tell my mom, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be a good mom, but on Friday nights, can I go to the club? Can I have my youth? All my friends are going,
Right.
and I'll be good. And then I'll still be at church on Sunday and raise a hallelujah, And so, she was doing that. So Friday night, faithfully, every Friday night, be at the club.
Yeah.
Floor up, from floor up, And Carla didn't know, but again, part of my story. Driving home one eye, again, God's fingerprints.
Yeah.
All over it. I don't even know how. Half the time I come home to get the baby and she goes, just let the baby stay here. Y'all stay here. Oh, got this going on. And just ashamed, be at the altar every Sunday. Like, Lord, I don't want this. Take it from me. I'm here, but pick it right back up and walk out that door with it, and just, I would never leave it there, And so that went on for a good long minute. And then I met another guy. Always a guy. Always a guy.
And for us, it's always a woman.
But I did, and I met this guy, and I thought he hung the moon. But when I met him, I should have known. I met him as one person, a certain name. I'm just going to leave names out of the whole podcast thing. But I met him as one person. And one day I was doing laundry, and his driver's license came out. Okay, right. Let's drop the head, right? So
tell me more.
Driver's license came out, and I was like, who is this name? Because it was his face.
Right.
The guy that I had been knowing, that was not the name he gave me.
Wow.
So I picked up the phone and called little Hopper, and I'm like, can you tell me this name? Because this guy's been staying in my house, and I don't know this guy, and he's been around my kid. You know, and I told him when I met him, like, I don't want any, you know that show? Yeah, my mama didn't know the show, and I felt really weird. But no Emmy, stop.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I told him, I was like.
It's probably the generation. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an old show.
Yeah, it is.
But, I mean.
I watched it.
I did.
I love it. I'll be like, no Emmy. Anyway, so that's what I told him. I was like, look, I can't do no Emmys.
Yeah.
You know, like I am going through a custody battle with my daughter, and if you got anything hidden behind, let me know.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm straight. It's like, okay, I believe you. And okay, I'm a very gullible person. So I'm not gonna. The 2 Corinthians 5:17, maybe? No, I don't know. You gotta, yeah, I gotta walk it out. So, but, come to find out, he was a totally different person. Found out the truth. But of course, here I am pregnant again. Yes. So, because I told him, I was like, you gotta leave. But then, the next week, I found out I'm pregnant. I was like, okay.
So, pregnant by the imposter?
Pregnant by the imposter.
The imposter, we'll just call him that. We'll give him that name.
Yeah.
Does that make it easier? Yeah. The imposter.
So, and you know, I was like, are you serious? Like, this can't be. It's like, Haley, I'll be so good to you. I'll be, you know, I'm so sorry, you know. And, okay.
So what was the reason for the deception with the name?
Because he was like, he was so ashamed of who he really was. And, like, why then? Like, I would have.
Oh, so it wasn't like he was hiding a hold of the family.
So that was what mine was. That's why I gave the head drop. I was like, hold on a second.
Yeah, that's why I was like, this
But,
man's
I mean, he
hiding
did
a hold
have
of
a warrant in the state that he was from, but he couldn't be extradited. And I don't know if it was because he just didn't want me to know about his past.
Yeah.
But be real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, I start off on a lot. But when I tell you the rest of the story, you're going to be like, well, now I know, is it all a lot?
Oh, let me get my C-suite.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Let's just get it started. So.
Stay tuned, folks.
Round 2. So, yes, so I found out I was pregnant. And through the pregnancy, it was good. You know, like, the guy was good. He was honest and there, and I thought everything was going to be great until that last month. That last month came, and I walked out, and his phone was going, you know. And so I checked it, and it was like, all I could read on the screen was, don't tell me to come cuddle with you, I could really fall for that. And so I go to the couch because he was sleeping, and I was like, hey, wake up. I got your phone. And he like jumps over the couch. And I was like, I dare you. If you do, you're never going to see this child. Because I mean, I'm out to here by this time.
Right.
Ready to pop any moment. And I was like, why? You know, why? You know, I mean, everything's been so good this whole time. And so, from that moment forward, it was just hell on wheels, to say the least. Then his grandfather died, and he had a secret cocaine addiction that I knew nothing about. I started thinking things, and one night I was laying in the bed, and I heard him out there like going, hey, like laughing. And I was like, what is that? What is that?
Yeah, perfect. I think it's perfect with the name, the imposter.
Yeah, so I go out there, and so like I heard him slide something under the couch, and I'm like, so I started feeling under there. Cause I got 2 kids in the home by now. I'm like,
Yeah.
this ain't gonna happen. Like at this time, all I'm doing is smoking weed, and I'm not gonna I mean, yes, weed's in the home, but we ain't about to do this. Whatever you got going on, I was at this moment trying to catch him with something because I needed a reason to keep him out. I just didn't have proof. He was such a good narcissist. And so he's like, you ain't gonna find nothing. And I felt that cold can. It was air duster. And I was like, really? Like, why? Like, this is dumb. So he leaves and he comes back all beat up, and I found out about his cocaine addiction. And I'm like, okay, you gotta get out of the house. Like, this cannot be happening. So I make him leave, and I'm going to graduate from my bachelor's, not a month later. And I invite him to come to my bachelor's graduation. And I look out there, and he's not there. So my mom and the rest of my family are all there, and we go out to eat after my graduation. And I'm drinking a beer, and I'm just sad. You know, I'm like, just graduated, and you know, the man I wanted to be there isn't there. You know, I really thought that, you know, after all the things we've been through, like he was going to be there. Like, this is my husband. You know, we're supposed to be together and support each other. And this girl looked at me, and she was like, hey, you want to go get high? And again, I remember I smoked weed, so I'm thinking she's talking about something more. And that's all she talked about. You know, I was like, well, we drove to this Hamilton address, and I go to the bathroom, and I come out, and she's smoking something that I had never seen. And I was like, you know, when you smoke a bowl, like of weed, you go on the top. Well, weed bowl or meth bowls, you go on the bottom. So here I am not knowing how to do it, and I go on top. She's like, no, you don't do that. You know, so she's like trying to show me how to do it. And when I left there, I felt like Superwoman. You know, for 2 months, I was that functioning addict. You know, I could do everything by myself again. We were still separated. I could work, I could take care of the kids, I could clean my house, I had everything in order. But then 2 months later, I was 86 pounds. I was losing everything, losing my mind, forgetting to cook for my kids. I went and saw him at the park because we were still separated. And he had asked me, he's like, where did you go? And I was like, what do you mean where'd I go? And I didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
He's like, look at you. You know, where did you go? And I was like, I'm just depressed. You know, like, me and you aren't working out, and this is not what I want. And so I also got arrested for prescription fraud too. And so
During that same time?
During that same time, I lost so much weight that when I went to the doctor, they said you can't take the 90 for the month. I'm going to push you back on 60 a month because that's what your weight limit on the Xanaxes. And so I tried to change 6 to a 9. Yeah, how that works over. Yeah. And so I have
You wrote it upside down. Okay? That's, I fixed that.
Yeah.
It's stuff that we think of when we're in the addiction. We think it's...
It was so crazy.
Trying to like type out your own.
Y'all, it was so crazy. I had a beta fish with me when I went to the doctor. And like, I went into the doctor's office with this beta fish. I was so high. Okay. And then I went to the Christian pharmacy and I sat down and I like slid the, and I watched him leave. I was like, where are you going, Chris? Where are you going? Hey, where are you? And he'd come back and he's like, hey, Dr. Holstein wants to see you. And I was like, okay.
And you still got the...
I still got the fish, and I'm walking back over there, and I was like, is there a problem? And all of a sudden, this officer walks up behind me, and I was like, oh, man, we got problems, don't we?
Oh, my fish.
And he was like, yeah, you're going to jail. And I was like, And I asked the officer, I was like, what about my fish? I was like, I just bought it. My kids are going to be so sad. And he was like, we'll take care of your fish. I think he flushed them. Really
Probably.
good. Probably. I was arrested for a whole week. And I remember calling my ex, and he was like, do I call your mom? You know, she's really calling me every day asking where you're at. And, you know, this time they wasn't posting stuff. And I was like, no, you're not telling them where I'm at. Like, we're going to get through this. He's like, I'm going to tell them to pull, because I was telling them, I said, I don't know how that 6 got changed to a 9. The prescription failed, and I think somebody wrote on it. And he said, we are going to pull that surveillance, because I believe you. And I was like, do not pull the surveillance. And he goes, well, I believe you, and we are going to prove your innocence. I said, I cannot talk on this phone, but do not pull that surveillance. I'm telling you, don't pull it. Just trust me. So anyways, I finally broke down, and I was like, okay, I did it. Okay. Let's just get me out of here, and I will do what I need to do. And I was on pretrial diversion for that. I did a year for that. And,
So is that like drug court?
It is, but it's only for a year, and they didn't monitor me. Like, I tested once a month.
Right.
So I knew how to get by it.
Oh, Lord.
You know, and I played it for what it was. You know, I would quit a week before, and then, you know, the other 3 weeks I'd play it for a fiddle.
Right.
And so then I went back out, you know, got back again. And so this time, I went really out there, really bad. And then wound up getting pregnant with my 3rd child. And I was so selfish that I could not stop using while I was pregnant with her. I found out I was pregnant by a home test. Went to the doctor once to find out she was a girl. And I was so mad that she was a girl because I really wanted a boy. And I was like, you know what? I'm not coming back. I was so high that my next door neighbor that was getting high with me, we were going to have a water birth in my pool that was filled with algae.
The best ideas we come up with.
Okay? I was like, you're a nurse, right? I was like, we could do this. We could like have a water birth, right?
Can it be that hard?
Could it be that hard? Like, we got a pool full of water.
Not to mention, you know, the 10-pound baby days, you know, you had earlier.
I'm telling you. She was like, yeah, we can do this. So I never went back. And like, it was horrible. Like every time I'd go through contractions, she'd come over there. One time she gave me this one pill.
So you actually tried it?
Yeah. 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 My blood pressure got real bad one day and she gave me the wrong pill. And I was asleep for like 2 days. She was like, Haley, I don't think this is a good idea. I really suggest that we start going to the doctor.
Wow.
So I went back and he was like, yeah, you're a lot further than we thought. I think we need to come in for like in 2 weeks and do the C-section. And he was like, where have you been going? And I was like, don't worry, doc. I have been in California with a midwife. I have been taking care of this whole time. And y'all, I will have to give you pictures to let you see.
This is one of them. I was asleep.
I was asleep.
I was asleep, Doc.
Okay, so you have pictures of this time.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we may have to put the pictures up on the screen.
Yes.
During this.
But I mean, y'all, it was,
And you can handle that, right?
he said what? But it was, again, fingerprints
Yeah.
involved. Because I did go in and have a C-section with her, and no drugs in her system. Not one.
Man, that's amazing.
And
That is amazing.
they tested her because I was gray. Like, I didn't see anything over your gray, but I was gray.
Wow.
And they were like, surely. But they tested her, nothing in her system. They let her go home with me. And when I say, y'all, he was so high at the doctor because my ex came to the hospital. And every time I'd wake up, he would leave. And I'd be like, where is he at now? And I remember I had a complication at the end because I kept having to get up and like walk around and take care of this little baby, and because he was nowhere to be found.
Right.
And he was like, "You're having a complication." He wound up like, okay, she was born August 24th, and our anniversary was August 25th. So he was like, "I'm gonna go get you some roses." Mind you, I did not trust him further than I could see him. So I had him on Google location, and I was watching his entire road trip, riding by the dope man's house. Then he calls me and he was like, "Haley, I just got pulled over and I'm going to jail and our car's getting impounded. There was weed in the car."
Wow.
And I was like, "What do you want me to do? I just had a C-section yesterday."
Add more stress to you.
Add more stress to me. So I wound up calling someone to get our car out of impound, and he wound up showing up. I don't know how he got out of jail, but he did. When he got there, he took the recliner, you know those little gliders?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he took that apart. You know, tweakers do the weirdest things. Take things apart.
Yeah.
And you know that little thing that carries the little IV drip things around?
Yeah.
Yeah, he took that apart too. Mama came in the hospital room. Okay, so he left me. They were discharging me. And he left me. He was like, "I don't think you need to leave yet." My ex. I don't think you're ready to leave yet." Who are you to tell me I need to leave the hospital?
I took the entire house apart.
Oh, yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
Wait a minute. Just hold on.
So I'm like, "I have to leave. They discharged me. What are you talking about?
Right.
We only have
Yeah.
one vehicle and you're not coming to get me?" Like, I do not want to call my mom and tell her to come get me and this baby. Get up here to get me. He did not come up there to get me. Finally, at 10 o'clock at night, they call me. They come in the room and they said, "Miss Bridmore," Miss whatever my name was. I was Miss Bridmore at the time. "Miss Bridmore, it's time for you to leave. Like, you have to leave this hospital." So here I am walking to the walk of shame to call my mom's number. "Mom, I need you to come get me." And she walks in there, and I'm trying to to hide the fact that the glider's taken apart and all this stuff is taken apart, and there's only one piece of the glider in the room.
Oh my.
So I'm like trying to have everything packed up. And
So
like,
is he like taking pieces out as he goes?
yes. So my mom looks over there and she's like, "Where's the other piece of the glider?" And I was like, "I don't know. Can we just leave?" So we leave and we go to the house.
I'm gonna take a time out and call your mom a freaking hero right now.
Yeah.
I swear, because she has held her composure a lot throughout the story.
Yes.
So way to go, mom.
My mom is my hero, by the
But you
way.
know, the
Props
thing
to Mom.
is, and this is something I've mentioned to people, you know, that, you know, whenever I was doing my peer support and, you know, counseling for drug and alcohol, the thing I would tell people is, the more you're in addiction, the more you're putting your family through it.
Absolutely.
I was like, just because they're not using with you, they're still living it out with you. You know, every single bit of it, because they care, they love you, they're going through it with you. So, you know, all this time we're like, "Oh, it's just me, you know, it's decisions I'm making," but it's affecting everybody.
Absolutely.
You know?
And you don't see that with addiction. And now that I'm a peer support and I help people that are going through an addiction, I actually help take those blinders off
Yeah.
and show them.
Like, this is what you're doing
Absolutely.
to your mom.
Absolutely.
Do you see?
Because nobody showed that to me.
Well, it's the accountability thing. Nobody wants to be held accountable for the actions that or the feelings that other people are having to deal with whenever they're having to deal with you. In that, you know, my main thing was I used to throw the biggest tantrums, hissy fits, because I was full rotten. You know, like you said, I was one of those people with silver spoon, couldn't tell me anything. You know, if I could manipulate the situation and throw a tantrum to get my way, but I didn't realize the costly effect it was having mentally on, you know, my family, my parents, and everybody else. But until I actually had that talk with my dad, and you could see the tears in his eyes about me apologizing, that was heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's why I say your mom is definitely a
Kudos.
hero in that. Yeah, kudos
Absolutely.
to her. Because for her to still come get you, knowing you're dealing with the imposter crazy.
Still had some time.
Right.
So yeah, she picked me up from the hospital, took me home, as we drive in the driveway, she goes, "There's the bottom of that glider, Haley."
On the side of the road?
No, in my driveway. As well as the entire house. You know, have you ever seen the show Hoarding Gone Wild?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, we were like, in our addiction, we were dumpster divers.
Oh.
And like one, yeah, let me get one too. Yeah, hoarding gone wild. Like we had probably an outside patio area and then an outside living room area. I remember one time we were doing shake and bake. And we were in the middle of a burn ban. This is a hilarious story now. We were in the middle of a burn ban, and I did not realize how bad shake and bake smelled. And my next door neighbor that was using with us, she was like, "Oh my God, do you smell that?" And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start a bonfire because that stinks. So I'm like starting a bonfire.
We're talking about the shake and bake.
The smell, the like lithium batteries.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I was about to say. I know what shake and bake. Do you know what shake and bake is?
No, I do not.
Okay, so shake and bake is basically where you
I
take.
thought we were talking about food.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
Complete opposite.
Opposite.
This is gonna keep you from eating food.
I'm fat, so you know I assume we're food.
No.
So
There is
Yeah.
a shake and bake food, but
But we're not talking about, shake and bake fried chicken. You shake it.
it's kind of
you bake
like, you know, meth is everything you can find underneath the kitchen sink.
Yep.
So
it.
it's
I call
kind
it
of,
bathtub crack.
yes, it's like the Drano and the lithium batteries and the, I'm not gonna say all the ingredients on here, to keep people from doing it, but it's everything you can find and you make it yourself. And,
Gotcha.
but that's what we were doing, and it stinks really bad, and like all your neighbors can find it or smell it. So that's what we were doing.
Gotcha.
And it can blow up your house.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That is probably, when you hear about meth labs and all that stuff
Yeah.
blowing up, it's probably somebody doing a shake and bake process.
Absolutely.
You know.
So I made him go outside in case it blew up the house. I don't want to leave the house. We got two kids inside and one in my belly. So
Safety first.
safety first, absolutely. So I'm burn ban. Remember, burn ban. Nothing's supposed to be burning. So the bonfire's going, and I throw on this plastic swimming pool. I didn't know plastic makes black smoke.
Yeah.
I know now. Trust me, I'm right. So I throw this plastic swimming pool on this bonfire, and all this black smoke goes up. 10 minutes later, you hear, "Wah, wah, wah." And me and him both lock eyes on each other. And he goes, "Oh crap." And I was like, "Oh, they're coming for us." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "We're in the middle of a burn ban." He was like, "Why'd you start a fire?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm a geek." You know what I mean? And I was like, "They're coming for us, but don't worry, I got this." And he's like shaking the bottle and he leaves. Like, just leaves. And I've got the neighbor's 5 kids at my house, my 2, and 1 in my belly. All these cops, all these firemen, everything come to my house while Hoarding Gone Wild is at my house. And he goes, the officer goes, "So why do you have all this furniture and stuff outside?" While my eyes are probably this big. And I was like, I don't know. I like furniture,
I almost expected you to be like, "This isn't my furniture."
No, it was definitely mine. And I was so oblivious to thinking nobody could notice.
Yeah.
But, back to going there. So I got there and I made it about a week staying sober with my baby, and just watching everybody come in and out my house, The reason I wear this shirt, Neighborhood Hope Dealers, because we were dope dealers.
Yeah.
Everybody was coming in and out, buying stuff, and, I was just sitting there watching everybody out, and I was just like, "Oh, I want to do it." But I was nursing, and I really wanted to do right, I got a taste of being sober again, and I was like, okay, maybe if I pump enough to where I could have it stored up for her, then I could do it for 3 days. Or I could do it for a day, and it'll stay in my system for 3 days, and then I could go back. And That's that addict mentality.
Yeah.
That's an addict math.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude.
Absolutely. You're like, okay, mark it on the calendar. Okay, heart here because that's the day I'll be playing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like stupidity. Well, it got to the fact where her left eye was caking up and she wasn't sleeping, but 45 minutes at a time, when she was throwing up, and I was taking her to the doctor, and me and him were fighting where I was having black eyes, and just chaotic. And I remember taking her to one doctor's appointment, and they're changing this formula yet again, and my middle daughter looks at the nurse and is like, so how many scoops do I need to put in the bottle? And the doctor looks at me and she goes, why is your daughter wanting to know that? And I said, well, she just likes to, help me. But in reality, she was the one taking care of her.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, because every time that baby would cry, I'd be like, Marley, go get her. I was just so spun out. Like, every time I tried to hold my baby, I dropped her. I could never, I know I dropped her like 15, 20 times. And again, God's fingerprints all on this, because I couldn't take care of her. I couldn't even remember a lullaby. Like, when I held her, all I could remember was 2 hymns, and that was I Love You, Lord, and Big Daddy's Redeem song. And I just hummed it to her. That's the only 2 songs I could ever remember. And I couldn't remember the lyrics, just how to hum it. And, it was just so crazy. And the doctor looked at me and she goes, where's that black eye coming from? Are you okay? I said, I'm fine. I opened up the cabinet. You always blame it on the cabinet or the stairs or, something. And I was like, I'm fine. So I go back home and, I tell him, I said, I'm tired. I'm tired of this life. He's like, oh, it'll be all right. So the next week, Marley's missing the bus left and right. And if I tried to drive her one day, and when you're doing it for so long, you've been up, you kind of nod out. And I nodded out one day, and I was going towards, when I woke up, because she touched me, she's like, Mama. And I woke up, and I was going towards a tree. And I started praying. I was like, God, please let me get her to school. I promise I'll go home, and I'll go to sleep, and I'll never drive her again if I'm home. It's not I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
It's I'll never drive her high again,
Yeah.
It's stupidity. And, I just...
It's kind of like those last minute, or those
Hail
prayers.
Marys.
Yeah, the Hail Mary prayers.
Absolutely.
Where you're like, God, if I can just live through this high right now, I swear tomorrow I won't get as high.
Absolutely.
It's like,
We're negotiating with God.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, that happens, and DHS comes knocking at the door, and I'm hiding from them. Truancy, if she misses the bus, I'm taking her.
Yeah.
I mean, you're staying at home. So truancy's coming, and finally one day they get me, and they're like, you can pass the drug test? I'm like, yeah, I can pass the drug test. I couldn't. And my mom's a hairdresser, and all of a sudden, I bleached my own hair, trying to pass a hair follicle test, like crazy stuff. And I wound up telling Paul, I was like, I'm tired. I can't do this no more. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And he said, Haley, it's going to take something drastic happening or us getting arrested before we get the help. I was like, I didn't want to get arrested. I've been arrested. Remember, prescription fraud. Don't want to go back there.
Yeah.
I'm not your material. So it was...
There's the fear that's been installed.
Absolutely.
Subconsciously.
Even going back to JDC.
Yeah.
I don't want that. So we get back to Marley gets the flu, and she's out of school for a week. I was like, okay, this time I got a doctor's note. Truancy ain't gonna give me this time. So I go to Walmart at the end of the week, and I'm gonna go get her doctor's note and a hair mask, because this whole week I had not even brushed her hair, and she's got a huge mat in the back of her neck. And I was going to get it. Well, being high, I stay in that hair aisle like an hour and a half. Like looking at them, just stuck. So by the time I get outside, I was...
Were you doing the dance moves along with it?
Probably.
Yeah. Just...
So,
I call it Panam,
So-
the methamine.
going way back into season 1, I think it had been like episode 8, and we were talking with Summer. In Summer's story, she wound up going to Walmart and stayed in Walmart for like over 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and did not even know it.
Well, it's because
You don't?
because to you've been there 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, because your mind is moving at such a rate of speed that everything feels like it's been it's just been a couple of seconds. I can remember there was one time I went to, it had to be probably Walmart, I'm in the flashlight section.
Gotta love them flashlights.
Flashlights, markers,
Yes.
and the pens. For some odd reason, those things just attract people who are in a meth addiction.
Yep.
So I went and got this big spotlight. Didn't know I'd been there half the day. Then I went to the pen section, and I was like, that would be pretty cool to draw with. I wonder if I could. Didn't know I'd been over there 45 minutes, and they had, one of those walk around shoppers sitting there just watching me, making sure I wasn't gonna stay. I was just like,
Stuck.
I was like, dude, it's just a pen,
Yeah.
It's just a pen. That's all I want. It's just a pen. And it's like, this pen is amazing. I remember having that conversation with him.
The best pen ever.
My eyes had to be probably that
Yes.
big,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I got mad at him because he wound up coming, the imposter, wound up coming in, and he was like, "Are you done yet?" I said, "Don't come in here. Do not come in here." Because, see, his thing was porn. And he was outside at Walmart, you get free Wi-Fi.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
No.
Yes. I was like, "Hey, you didn't even come in here because you're on that free Wi-Fi. I know what you're doing." So, play me for a fool. I know what you're doing. You out there watching that. That's what you do. Because you delete your history. I'm going to tell him. And I said, "You just go back out there. You didn't help me look for it. You didn't help me pay for it. You didn't help me bag it. Don't worry about it." So we wound up getting in a fight outside of Walmart, because then he was like, "I'll help you load put the groceries in." I said, "Don't worry about it." We were arguing. By this time, again, I'd already had the baby, and it was just, he got in the driver's seat, and I was so livid that he didn't, every time we went to Walmart, if he went in with me, we went separate ways.
Yeah.
It was never a stand by me thing. That always irritated me with him. It was never he put on a show that he was for me and with me, but it was never that way. It was
Yes,
never-
He's
Absolutely.
the imposter.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, from what I hear from him, it's a ton of gaslighting, more manipulation. But I mean, inevitably, that had to do something to your state of mind as well. That probably caused a lot of revenge use. There was a lot of usage just due to the fact that he was probably causing pain as well.
Yeah.
Just detrimental. Yeah.
There was he did tattoos, so there was always a girl about a tattoo. It was never, he always wanted to make me feel like, I love you, Haley, I love this, that. But he cheated on me more times than I could count. He lied to me more times than I could count. You got locks on your phone. It was just always something. And if you go this way, just so you can get on your phone and get on free Wi-Fi, and if it's about the porn, if it's about, it was never consistency. Around people, it was, let me hold your hand. But when we got behind doors, it was, you're such a this, and you're hitting on me, and, and then it was always covering up my bruises. And it was like a triangle. It was like, you would hit on me, and then when you'd see the bruises, you'd feel bad, and you'd honeymoon phase me. "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again." And then the tension would build up, and then you'd explode again. And then I'd feel bad again.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm just done. So
Something had to break the cycle.
it did,
Yeah.
and here's where the cycle got broke. So he's in the driver's seat, and he puts the car in drive. I was like, where are you going? You ain't gonna leave me, because I'm outside loading the car. It's like, you would not leave me in a Walmart parking lot. He's like, "One bit," and he drives off. And leaves me, and by this time, I have a bowl in my boot, I have a bag in my bra. I was like, that's fine, he can leave me. I'm going home.
Always get to the emergency boot pipe.
Absolutely, always. And he didn't know.
Everybody I've talked to, they've got that.
And he did not know about my emergency stash. That was the thing. And I always had, every night, I had a different hiding spot for it. When you have to have an emergency stash from your husband,
Yeah.
and you have to hide your like keys or something in your sock while you're sleeping, that's not a good relationship.
No.
You know what I mean? But anyway, so he leaves me. He goes home with the kids. Supposedly he came back and couldn't find me. Well, hell, I'm trying to find a ride home. You know? I mean, you done left me. I thought I'm high. So I tried to find a ride home, and they wound up taking me to a trap house to wake up some girl to take her home too. Because they went this way. I said, no, you're supposed to go this way. So when I get there, this girl there's like, well, this girl, she won't wake up. And I said, okay, let me go in and try to wake her up. So I go in and try to wake her up, and as soon as I get the girl up, and I'm like, come on, we gotta go so we can leave, all I hear is, everybody freeze, this is, raid. And I'm like, so I take my emergency stash up, and I'm like, hiding it. I'm like, oh, it's not gonna be my stash.
Right.
And I walk out, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm good. I'm here just to wake somebody up. And again, this little.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Now, we think we're doing all the right things, but we don't know how we cosmetically look.
Oh, I looked horrible. You saw my mugshot.
I did see it.
Oh, it looked horrible, and I thought I had it going on.
We'll put that up too.
Oh, yeah. So, the officers actually rewind just a hair at Walmart. I had asked 2 officers to give me a ride home. And they was like, we can't give your type a ride home. My type?
Yeah.
What you talking about, my type?
What you mean, you people?
I'm good. So when the raid happened, I went out there, and it was the same 2 officers. And I said, hey, y'all remember me?
Can I get a ride home now?
Yeah. They're like, well, I told you was that type. I was like, what do you mean? They were like, you're in a trap house.
I was in there rescuing a lady.
Yeah, that's what I tried to say. They didn't believe that. So they raided the house, and just so happened my weed and my pipe happened to be in my newborn babies. You know those hand mittens to keep them from scratching?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened to be in that. And one of the other girls that was there just so happened to have a newborn too. And they came flying out, like in that girl's face, how dare you have your stuff and this newborn baby's thing, and don't you think about your baby, and da-da-da. And I was like, because I was shame took over then. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's getting in trouble for my stuff. Shut up, Haley. Shut up, Haley.
Yeah.
Don't take the fall for it. So, and I was like looking over at this guy, and I was like, please take the fall for it. Please, I gotta go home to my babies. And the guy was like, okay, I'll take, because he was already going down. Like, he had a warrant for himself anyway. He's like, look, I'll take the rap for it. Just let the girls go home. They were like, not happening. They took all 9 of us in. There was 9 of us there. But that was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Yeah.
It really was. That night, I was pretty PO'd about it. Pretty PO'd.
But hindsight's 2020.
But hindsight 2020 was the best thing that ever happened to me. I got arrested February 7th, 2017. I had a hold on me for a long time. I was in the county jail for 4 months.
One more time. God's fingerprints.
Yes, God's fingerprints. Okay, let's see how this happened. The DHS, that was, truancy knocking at my door, they came and saw me the next day, and they said, Haley, where are your kids? We need to see where your kids are. And I said, well, they're at home with their dad. And they're good, because, here I am still blindsided and thinking that, okay, if I'm up there, he's not going to do that without me.
It's going to get worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since all this has happened, I'll fast forward just a little bit to go back, I've gotten police reports. And the police report from that night, not only was there tons of meth found, there was syringes found, and I was never a shooter. So, yes, my kids were rescued.
Yeah.
He still has not known that I've got the police report, so, yeah, that was news to me that there was even syringes in the house. Because I was finding the caps.
Yeah.
And I was asking him about it. Because he's covered in tattoos, so I never even saw track marks. But I was always asking him, like, where are these caps coming from? oh, you're just trying to blame this on me, da, 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 da. You
The
know,
imposter strikes again.
Yeah, you should.
just own up to
Are we
it.
just gonna go ahead and call this episode The Imposter?
We might as well. That or God's fingerprints. Ooh.
God's fingerprints, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not give him no glory.
That's right, that's right.
So, I got arrested, DHS went and they, rescued my kids. They called my mom came and got them. Back to when I said my child was only sleeping for 45 minutes at a time, little did I know, she was going through withdrawals.
Oh, man.
Because when I took her back in the home, remember she had no meth in her system when she was born. But going back into the home with me, I never knew, because remember I was a weed smoker.
Right.
I never knew secondhand smoke was a real thing. But weed smoke and dope smoke, two totally different things.
Yeah.
The secondhand smoke that, you know, at this time, my oldest daughter, she didn't want to live with me because I had already been arrested for prescription fraud. And there was just so much going down. I had been to my first rehab, which was a NACA 12-step program, and it just didn't work for me. She didn't want to come home and live with me. So I had my middle daughter and my youngest daughter living with me, and they were both affected by the dope smoke. And they had so much dope in their system that she was not sleeping. I knew my middle daughter seemed high strung, but I just thought it was her age. But my baby, you know, newborn, I was like, why is she not sleeping? You know, but that was why. So they took her, and I, you know, to this day, I'm so thankful for my mom and my dad for really putting their life on hold, you know, to take care of my babies. You know, they stopped everything. They were like, the state is not taking the babies. You know, we will do whatever we can to take care of these babies. After I got out, 4 months, I went into the Doors of Teen Challenge. And that's what really worked for me. You know, it was that faith-based 12-step program. Well, really, a Teen Challenge is not a 12-step. You know, I got a life recovery Bible, so I did the 12 steps, you know, without them knowing about it. But Teen Challenge is a 1-step, it's Jesus. But
I say teen Challenge is a little bit more kind of like an in-house rehab, more so than 12-step program.
Absolutely. And it's supposed to be 13 months, you know, but my wayward self and stubbornness, I turned it into a 15-month program. But, I mean, again, God's fingerprints, because he made it all work out exactly how he wanted it to. But that's where my chains broke. I went in there and I was so broken.
Yeah.
You know, like every time I tried to laugh, every time I tried to have a good time, I kept, you know, sitting back. And I was like, I cannot have a good time. You know, my babies are at home. My mom is struggling to...
Still living with guilt at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, I told Miss Kelly, I was like, how can I do this? You know, my babies are at home. They even told me my 9-month-old, or my baby might not live to, you know, make it past 9 months with how much dope she had in her system.
Right.
You know, and that really struck me hard because I was like, how can, you know, I'm not there. You know, but, you know, it's hard. And Miss Kelly was like, Haley, you got to give it to God. They're not your kids. You know, you have got to surrender them to the Lord and let him do what he's going to do with them. You know, and you got to be okay with it. And that was a tough pill to swallow. You know, and I was praying about it. I was like, okay, Lord. We were on the way to a choir practice one day, and I was not driving, which I always drive at Teen Challenge, but this day I was not driving. And I was sitting back and I was like praying, and I was like, all right, Lord, I'm doing a lot of soul searching, and I'm ready to surrender. You're going to have to give me a sign, because I know you're real, but I don't have a lot of faith. You know, you tell me a mustard seed of faith, and that's just about how much I have. So if you're real, give me a sign. I don't know when you're going to do it, but open my eyes and give me a sign. And I did not expect him to show up so darn quick. And so I open my eyes and I lean back, and just so happened I was on this side of the van, and I'm like looking out, and I was looking at the clouds, and y'all, I was definitely not high. I've been sober for so many months. And in the clouds was the letters H and I. The word hi. And I was like, I turned around to the girl behind me, her name was Madison. I was like,
You see that?
I didn't even say, do you see that? I said, girl, what do you see up there? And she was like, I see the word hi. I said, that's what I said too. And so I told her what I had just prayed. And I said, there ain't no way. And so I tapped the girl in front of me. I said, what do you see up there? Just making sure she didn't see something that
Make sure she went high.
Right. And so she saw it too, and I said, I went back to praying. I said, all right, Lord, I'm going to surrender these girls today. And you're going to have to help me, because every time I surrender at the altar, I pick it up. And these are my babies. And they're supposed to be yours, but these are my babies. You know, help me leave them at the cross. And so I went up there and I prayed, and I was like, Lord, do what you have to do. I surrender my kids to you. I surrender my marriage to you. Have your way. You know, whatever it is that you're going to do it. And I left, and I felt a peace come over me.
Yeah.
You know, and I made it through Teen Challenge. I survived, and I graduated, and I came home, and, you know, Paul, he was in prison. He got out. And we wound up getting a place of our own, and which was at my late grandmother's house. My oldest daughter came to live with us, and it was like restoration. I had all my babies under one roof.
That's amazing.
You know, I had my whole family back. And then Corona happened. And, you know, he started working third shift, and I just started noticing a difference. And I started noticing something was different. And, you know, I cleaned out his car one day, and I found a meth pipe. And I was like,
No more. Yeah.
this can't be. And, you know, I struggled with that. And so I asked him, I said, this can't happen. And Maya wound up leaving to go with her dad. There was a lot of tension in the air. You know, when Corona happened, it was a lot of bickering. You know, when he started back using, it was a lot of illness. You know, just the short temper, the short fuse. Him just, he had a lot of resentment towards Maya, and it was like that. And so she left. She was like, I'm just going for the summer. But she didn't. You know, she packed her whole room up, and she left, and that really hit me hard.
Yeah.
And so I asked my mom to watch the other two girls. And at this time, I'm on drug court. I've passed every drug test. You know, doing the thing, working with bodybuilders, starting to open a ministry, you know, this ministry, and, you know, just doing the dang thing, you know, living strong. But this Corona, closing down churches, not being held accountable, not being able to go around like-minded people, not having meetings, you know, trying to stay in the Word, but, you know, it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, when you're used to getting around people and having those...
The encouragement
Absolutely.
and everything else, yeah.
And then it all goes away, and then you have drugs starting to come back around. It's what you're comfortable with and knowing. So Mama takes the girls, and we are supposed to shampoo the carpets. And he asked, you want a drink? And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll be fine. And then he brings a bowl in. And I was like, okay, just this once. Just this once. So I hit the pipe. And y'all, this is like God's fingerprints. I'm telling you, my phone rings, text message goes off. 9:45 at night. My PO has never texted me an Atlanta night. And she's like, Haley, you have been chosen as one of the 10 to show up at court tomorrow for court. Oh, after I just hit the bowl.
Not me, no.
I was like, I'm screwed. He's like, it's all right. We can still have a good night. I was like, are you kidding?
Not at this point.
I'm
right.
freaking out. So, you know, I make up this bogus excuse on why I can't get to court. Like, my tire's flat, this, all this and whatever. So I don't go to court. And I wound up taking the garbage out, and I didn't shut the door. And I'm right here at the door, and I hear boom, 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 boom. Agent Grammer, PO. And I was like, and I'm thinking, okay, cops can't come in your house, right, without you opening the door? That's true. But drug court POs, like when you sign that thing, you sign your life away.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he entered the door. So I go and hide. And what do a tweaker do? You hide under a bed. So I hide under a bed, freaking out.
They'll never look here.
They'll never look under the bed.
Never.
So, a couple of hours later, they're still looking through the house. Still haven't looked under the bed. But finally they find me, and y'all, I'm so ashamed. I can't even lift my head because I've made it so long
Yeah.
in my recovery. And I'm such an inspiration to so many people, but more so to myself, because I had been an addict for 24 years. And I had been going strong for so long, and why I let this one lapse in judgment come, for what? Because really, even when I did hit the pipe, or it wasn't the same. I didn't get that same euphoric feeling. So I held my head in shame, and I was like, this is not what I want. And I failed the drug test, of course, and everything had to come to a head. And I just told Paul, I said, this isn't what I want. So it's either the drugs or us. And he had been so wrapped up in it that he just couldn't stop. And it came to a point of, we just fought so much, and I went to go pack my bags, and I had to call 911, and I wound up leaving, and I never looked back. And I've been at my mom's house, and I've been passing every drug test, and, doing bodybuilders, staying at Celebrate Recovery. We call it Recovery Room now where we're at. Let's see, we've got recovery room.
So those are the stuff that you're doing now.
Absolutely.
That maintain your sobriety.
Absolutely, recovery room, bodybuilders. There's one more I go to. It's just Zion Church. I just stay at church anymore. Anytime the doors are open, I'm at a meeting or at church.
Because if nothing changes, nothing changes.
And it's changing. I filed for the divorce. When I had to leave, I said, if I don't leave and I stay in this cycle, it's not going to change.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for, the imposter, because we have two beautiful children together.
Yeah.
But there's just so much water under the bridge that I don't think that we could ever move past the past.
Yeah.
And people do change, and there is forgiveness, and I'm not saying that there can't ever be forgiveness and he can't change, because I have, but I just want to move forward. I want to be able to turn this next chapter and just move forward and just
He's got to go with you, though.
Right.
He's got to make the same effort.
by himself.
Yes.
You
And
know,
if he's not, then,
Right.
and that's a little bit with my story is, my wife was going to leave. And by all rights, we should be divorced. But I made that effort to change.
Right.
And I ended that last episode telling people, hey, if your husband is doing the same things I was doing, give him another chance.
Mm-hmm.
But if he doesn't change, you're going to be in the same position.
Right.
So it's all about the change.
Right.
And Haley, just listening to your story, man, that is where the hope is. Mm-hmm. From the beginning of your story, from just starting out with the weed and the liquor, and to ending up with staying in Walmart for 4 hours and hitting your relapse. I mean, it's just a miracle, and it's the biggest ray of hope that I can personally think of. You are a lighthouse to people that are listening that are still in the dark of addiction. And man, if your story isn't a fiery example of hope, I don't know what is. And so I really appreciate you coming on today and to dive into such, ooh, man, I got a whistle on that. I don't know, but to dive so far into your story to share with strangers listening on the podcast to give that hope. And like we end every episode, we're going to ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
And they're not going to be nothing too bad. What is the biggest thing that you personally took from your story? What are some lessons learned?
That you can't go back to your vomit, you know?
Yeah.
You can't, I mean, going back to toxicity is just going to repeat the same cycle.
Most definitely.
You know, what's the word?
Insanity?
That one. You know, expecting a different result. I mean, sometimes it changes hard. And it was hard for me to finally come to the end and say, I have to go through with this divorce. Because I was that person that said, maybe it can change.
Yeah.
You know, maybe today can be different. But, you know, it took me seeing my kids starting to flinch.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I didn't want my kids to be walk on eggshells like I walked on eggshells.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't want that, you know, because I know my kids are going to look for the man that I accept. And I don't want that. You know, I want better for them. And if I have to break that generational curse, I would rather be single and happy than with someone and miserable.
That's right.
You know, but returning to vomit never works.
That's really good. I like that.
The thing about change, though, especially in addiction, sorry, I know interjecting, is often people, you get the question of, well, how do I make that change like that big? You know, it's not about that one big change. It gradually happens, just like you gradually started using, just like in the beginning of your story, you know, it starts to snowball into that big change.
It's a lot of little bitty steps equaling one
It's
big
the
step.
first choice to admit, you know, and then it starts from there. And then there'll be more choices to, you know, but as long as it's the right choice made, you know,
Well, it's like I tell people, you know, change doesn't happen overnight.
you never started learning to use overnight. So.
Exactly. You know, and it's not going to be instant. You know, you have to be willing to go through the rain in order to get the rainbow.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be able to say, okay, I'm going to go through this process. And you know, I heard this the other day. Sometimes you got to let the hurt happen to be able to be shaped where you're supposed to be. You know, you got to allow God to put you through the fire to sharpen you or shape you where He's got to have you.
Yep.
So.
Man, and hey, y'all just got all that for free. Imagine, I mean, that's some great stuff right there, man. Whew. Man. So number 2, what would you tell somebody that's going through the same thing that you came out of?
I would tell them to not lose hope, to keep pressing in, you know, to surrender, you know, find out what your biggest setback is, to see what is bringing you down. When you rise up, what brings you down? And it doesn't matter how many times you fall. Every time you fall, get back up. Because the fall doesn't define you. The rise up does.
Yeah.
So even if you fall 7 times, that 8th time that you rise up, that's what's going to define you.
That's right. Drew, you want to take the last 2?
Yeah, sure. So what impact do you think the old you has on the current you?
My old pictures. My old pictures.
We're gonna need some of those, by the
Yeah.
way, so we can.
The old me, just the old mask that I used to wear.
Right.
You know, I see it in so many people. You know, the people I work with, the people that come through the doors of the ministries that I work with. I asked the Lord when I was at Teen Challenge to give me a spirit of discernment.
Yeah.
And so many people come up to me and, you know, they like give me hugs and immediately I can say, hey, what's going on? And they can say nothing. You know, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
You know, and I can talk to them and I can say something's going on or I can pray with them or something and I can say, look, this is what I went through. and this is how I, work through it. And everybody's different.
Yeah.
But I use what I've gone through to help other people. Now, whether they take that advice or they don't, but I look back at a lot of my old pictures to remind myself where I've come from. Because I never want to be one of those people who forget where I come from.
Yeah.
I always want to stay humble and, stay in thankfulness of God of where he brought me from.
God rescued you from the pit, so you go back and get more out of the pit.
Let me tell you, and when I'm at church, I am the loudest one. When people sit beside me, I tell them, look, I'm just letting y'all know, I'm a very loud praiser, but it's because I remember.
Yeah.
I remember in that county jail cell, and I remember going back in there, because I'm going to tell y'all, this is one part I left out, and it's good. When I went into, how they have them people that come in and do jail ministries, I went in and I was like, I think I might go to this one. And I went in, and they brought this little boombox in, and they said, we just so happened to let them approve us bringing in this boombox, and we want to play a song for y'all. Guess what song it was?
What was that?
I Love You, Lord.
The same when you were humming.
Same when I was humming. And I was like, because I've been,
Right.
I was like, they played that song, and I was like, I got out of my seat. Now I'm in all yellow. I look like Big Bird up in there. I got in all yellow, and I was around all these other prisoners.
Right.
I got out and I sat on the ground, I knelt on the ground, and I just cried. And I didn't care who was watching me or nothing. And I was like, I'm so sorry, because I always knew who God was. And I always had.
But that was that moment of encounter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
People pray for that on a continuous basis, but to actually feel that.
Absolutely. And I knew at that moment, like, I didn't care who was around me. And I went back in that cell and I said, all right, God, if you say, this is how I try to, talk to God. If you save me and my girls, I said, no, don't worry about me. You can leave me in here. You can throw me under the cell if you want to, because I absolutely deserve it for what I put my kids through. Save my kids. You save my girls. And I promise, if you ever see fit to let me out of here, I will be your hands and feet. I will walk these streets, and I will continue to bring people out of the dungeons. I will continue to be fire for you. And I am. Like, if I get in that, it don't matter if I'm in the church or outside the church, I'm on fire for you.
All right, so thank you for coming by.
Absolutely.
Your story has been absolutely amazing. I've enjoyed every bit of it. It's just some of those things, man. They touch the heart. They give insight. It's phenomenal the way that you've gone from this to now. You're the hope dealer, not the dope dealer. Amen to that. So I'll give you a few minutes, open mic, to reach that one person. That's what this show's about. It's not about reaching everybody, as long as we can reach one. What would you say to that one person if you could reach them?
What I would say to that one person is it doesn't matter what you've gone through. It doesn't matter if you feel like you have just been hurt so many times, or you have just shamed God. There's nothing that you have done that is unworthy. If you ask God for forgiveness, he has spiritual amnesia, and he forgives you, and he doesn't remember it. It's ourselves that keeps remembering every single sin that we've done. Forgive yourself. Look in the mirror and learn to forgive yourself. That's who we battle with the most. The things between our ears, that's Satan's battleground. Learn to let go and let God, and just allow him to take over. Fully surrender every single bit of your life. Quit playing on the fence. Quit teeter-tottering. Quit playing church. Quit allowing the enemy to slip through the cracks and just trick your mind and toy with the what ifs. What if I would have done this? What if I would have done that? Quit going back to Facebook and stalking the ex and looking back and saying, well, what if I would have done this, or what if I would have done this, or blocking him and unblocking him, and well, maybe I'll give him another chance. Move on, let go, and just learn from your mistakes. Mistakes are a part of life. If they're supposed to happen, but we're supposed to learn from them. If we don't learn from them, they become habits.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Recovery fam, that winds up another episode of the Unashamed Recovery Podcast. And what a episode that it has been. And I hope today's episode has been a blessing to you and an encouragement for you. Don't forget that you can always join the recovery community online at Twitter for more recovery conversations. You can find us at Unashamed Recovery, Unashamed Recovery. And you can also use the hashtag Recovery Posse to find thousands of others. Do you want to be a guest on the show like Haley was today? We're always taking people, to share their story with others. Email us at unashamedpodcast@yahoo.com to send us and get scheduled to share your amazing story. And Haley, if somebody wants to contact you about, coming and speaking at a recovery group, or maybe to share on another recovery podcast, what's the best way that somebody can contact you?
Well, my email is HaleyP, HALEY2524@gmail.com.
That sounds good. And guys, with that, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for your continued support of this podcast. And I hope that you will all continue to stay sober. And until next time, we love y'all and remember to be unashamed.
Amen.
See you guys.
Hey, Recovery fam. Thanks for watching another episode of the Unashamed Recovery Podcast. And if today's episode has somehow helped you out, or maybe it's encouraged you to get into recovery, consider subscribing to our channel, like this video. You can even give us a comment.
Yeah. What? What was I supposed to say?
I like it, social media.
Oh, well, I was getting on there and liking it. See?
Guys, you can find us on all social media at Unashamed Recovery